Hey, JD, I believe George is waiting in the queue. Can you allow him to enter?
We'll work on that, yes.
Good evening, everyone. A very warm welcome to all of you and a happy new year from the entire core HRIR team and HRCI. In association with HRCI and Uptop, we are here with our 37th Learning Weekend webinar. I am Jyoti Sharma, your host for the day, and we have our diverse speakers and panel members who will enlighten us on the topic HR benefits and certifications. We have with us today Dr. Archana Arcot, Harini Muralidharan, and George Namdadeu. Please join me in welcoming them for today's webinar. Before we kickstart our much awaited session, a little bit about the core HRIR team. We are a network of 5,000 plus HR professionals, HR leaders, CHROs, and leading HR minds from Fortune 500 companies that are connected globally. Since our very inception, we have come up with various initiatives, including the live via WhatsApp and Telegram groups for various discussions, the Learning Weekend webinar series, and we can say proudly that this is the 37th Learning Weekend webinar. We also have our Chai Buddies series, which is a forum for industry practitioners to meet face to face, engage, network, and gain insights from each other. One of our other initiative is the Shining HR Awards, which is to felicitate and award deserving HR professionals. We have also launched the Career Center, which is an AI-enabled jobs platform. One of the other initiative is the core research, which is basically a theme to research upon various differentiated HR topics and share insights on that. We have also launched the Candid Conversation series for sharing HR and business insights with all HR professionals. We also have regular HR conclaves and HR summits to enable learning amongst the HR professionals. Other than that, we have also collaborated with the world's largest HR certification body, HRCI, which is globally recognized. These are a few of our initiatives that we've spoken about, and of course there are a lot more in store with the coming year. I really feel honored to introduce our speakers for the day. Also, during the course of the webinar, we will discuss about the various HRCI global HR certifications available, which are listed here on this slide. Moving ahead with the introduction of our speakers, our first speaker for the day is Dr. Archana Arcot. Dr. Archana is a seasoned professional. She's a creative thinker. She's really been a turnaround professional who's led HR benefits, who's led organization development. She's currently working with Infosys as Associate Vice President, Head of Client, Business, and Talent Integration. And she's previously worked with organizations like WNS, Airtel, and Onida. She's a doctorate in HR from Exilare Jamshedpur, and she's also completed various leadership programs and certifications from Stanford University and the development program from INSEAD. She's also a certified global professional in human resource from HRCI. She's introduced various programs and inspirational groundbreaking programs which kind of provides a lot of insights and learning for various HR professionals. She's also been a guru to many professionals, and she's always more than willing to lend a helping hand to people who are looking for a solution or who reach out to her for guidance. Dr. Archana, would you like to say hello to the audience?
No, hello. Thank you so much. It's great to connect and happy to be here on this platform. I think we've seen in the last 9 months with the COVID-19, if there's one thing that's happened, it's completely transformed the world of work, which puts HR in the forefront of this action. So happy to be here in this panel and look at the need for certifications like this just to make HR more relevant. So thank you for having me here.
Thanks, Dr. Archana. It's a pleasure having you with us today. Our next thought leader is Harini Muralidharan. She is currently working as the head people business partnering, colleague relations, and diversity and inclusion with Tesco. She's a seasoned professional and has led various initiatives in various verticals like talent management, change management, compensation benefits, and various branding initiatives. She's also worked with organizations like Juniper Networks, Ericsson India, NetApp, Infosys, Hewlett Packard, ENY, and other startups. She's also completed her MBA from Loyola School of Business Administration, and she's also certified global professional and human resource from HRCI. Harini, would you like to speak with the audience?
Thanks a ton for the introduction, and it is definitely a pleasure to be on this particular session. A very happy new year to everybody. I do hope that this year, courtesy of COVID from the past, has kind of ensured that learning continues. And I do believe that I think if there was one big positive which came out of the entire COVID situation was I think we working from home, which has driven big time our focus on learning and really upskilling ourselves. So looking forward to really sharing my views in this group.
Great. Thank you, Harini. It's great having you with us today. Moving on to our next thought leader for the day, we have with us, George Nomdadeu, and he's popularly known as JD. He's also a seasoned professional, and he has been currently associated with HR Certification Institute. He has previously worked with organizations like Top Employers Institutes, Institute of International Education, Phelps Stokes Fund, the International Affairs Council, American Red Cross, Generation Engage, etc. He's also an MBA from University of District of Columbia. He's a certified global professional in HR. He's done his GPHR, he's done his APHR, and has also done his APHRI, which is Associate Professional in HR International, and certifications in risk management from Nonprofit Leadership Alliance. So he's definitely, here to share a lot of insights with us. He's also been involved in a lot of movements, which are related to nonprofit organizations of international relevance. JD, would you like to speak with the audience?
Yes, thank you, Yati. Thank you, Core HRIR. Thank you also to the speakers who are going to be joining us today, Harini and Archana. I think most of you might be familiar with HRCI because you're in the HR profession. My intention today is to share with you a new program that HRCI is connecting with our partners in India up top through the next speakers, George and Ajay. We want to make sure that everybody has a way to access the HRCI certifications. We understand that there's different paths for this, and we want to make sure that they're relevant to the Indian market, which is the reason why we are bringing speakers of great value, great experience, who are GPHR certified to explain from their personal perspective why they decided to get certified and why they think that is a certification of value to the Indian market. So very happy, very honored to join in this conversation today.
Wonderful. Thanks, JD. Great having you with us today. And a little bit about me. I am Jyoti Sharma. I have 16 plus years of experience in HR and have handled various gamut of HR functions. I'm currently working as regional recruitment lead with South Asia with Foreign and Commonwealth Development Office at British High Commission. And I have previously worked with organizations like British Council, Aon Hewitt, and IBM. So I am extremely excited to start with our topic for the day, which is benefits of HR certification. There has definitely been a growing appreciation and benefits of all the HR credentials amongst various HR professionals. With pandemic, Harini and Dr. Archana mentioned that we've really got an opportunity to advance our learning and development to the next level. We definitely come across a lot of queries that will get answered in today's webinar, which towards the end of the day, it'll give you an insight of a lot of HR certification courses available, which ones to choose from, and kind of what is the scoring mechanism, how to prepare for these courses, what are the career decisions that should be taken, and what is the ecosystem of learning. We'll gain a lot of insights from how Harini and Dr. Archana pursued their GPR certifications and how they were successfully able to achieve them. So with this, I would request JD to share an overview of academic HR programs and opportunity for HR professionals to enter to these programs.
Sure. I think I'm going to share my screen for the first slides about HRCI, and then I'm going to let George and Ajay to share their portion of the academic presentation.
Yes, George, please go ahead.
Okay. So as Jyoti mentioned, HRCI has several global certifications, as you can see on the screen. And I believe with every webinar that Core HRIR offers, these certifications are presented. So these are opportunities for any HR professional anywhere in the world to access what is a career in HR following the path of success based on years of experience, decades of experience worldwide with certification holders all over the world. HRCI is recognized in 125 countries. We have certified during the 40 years of our existence over 500,000 professionals. And we're proud to say that 93% of Fortune 500 companies employ certification holders. That means that anybody who works in a Fortune 500 has at least heard of HR, because we have several people certified in those countries. And we do acknowledge that like ours, but when you look at the actual demand for certifications worldwide, our certifications are 5 times more requested than other certifications. One of the things that I like to say, and the reason why I'm very proud to have with us certification holders in this webinar, is that it is not HRCI as a certification body that makes these certifications valuable. It's the certification holders themselves, those HR professionals who contribute to develop the exams, who manage the quality of the exams to make sure that they're relevant and the content is something that is up to date. And also, it's just the fact that they're coming from very valued organizations. As we have all heard, Harini and Archana come from a very incredible professional experience. And that is the community that you are joining when you join HRCI. When it comes to the actual development of the certifications, HRCI has a capability model, which you can see on your screen, which not only addresses the needs of the HR professional, but also how is that HR professional going to contribute to the organization that he or she is working for? And how is that connected to the business environment, to the workforce, to the organization, to the economy that is participating in, taking into account all the different components of that certification. And as you can see, each one of our certifications has a different level of capability based on experience and knowledge based on the actual content that somebody has to be aware of in order to practice HR. And I'll repeat once again, our certifications are generalist certifications. That means that you might be spending most of your time working in compensation and benefits, but you definitely need to know something else about how talent management operates, and you need to know how the business is connected to the HR practice. So that's what these certifications are offering you. And you can see here how from the beginning of somebody's career, you can begin just as an HR intern doing very administrative processes. That's when you want to get your APHRI. If you don't have any HR experience, you start with that process. Then as you evolve in your career, you can jump into the different sections of more program management, more specific, more in the types of operations of the everyday. That's where the APHRI comes into place. Then you evolve into your HR director or vice president, and that's how you evolve into the more senior, more strategic certifications like the SPHRI or the GPHR. And just to clarify, the GPHR is the global certification, which is meant for HR professionals who practice HR for several countries. Let's say that you're working in HR for India, but you're also taking some operations in Bangladesh or in Pakistan. So that's why this certification is meant for, cross-border operations. And the section that I would like to pass that now to my colleagues in AppTop is, how do you prepare for these types of certifications? What's the career path that you're going to take to prepare? So this is where AppTop is coming up with a new academic proposal that I do think is going to be of great value and of interest to those of you. And if not to you directly, maybe to some of the colleagues that you work with. So George, Ajay, do you want to share your screen now and share the PowerPoint?
Yep, thank you so much, Jerry. George, I think you can
Thanks,
upload.
Jerry. I'll just share it. Thanks.
Yeah.
I hope my screen is visible.
Yes.
Yes, it is now.
So Ajay, you can take up the up top part of it, and I'll talk about the curriculum and the course we are planning.
Sure, I'll do that. Hi, everyone. So we didn't get a chance to actually interact in the beginning of it, but thank you to having us here in the session. I'll quickly talk about up top what we are and what we do, and then probably George will be taking you through the program which we have designed and really wanted to come up with the HRCI. HR is one of the edtech firm which is building program which are helping working professionals to have certifications into their specific functional areas. We are working with a couple of top business schools here in India, and internationally we do have a collaboration with HRCI. These programs are absolutely based on the R&D which our team is on, and come up with the topics which we suggest to our partner institutes to work on, and build a structured program which can be offered to the working professionals, and thereafter the working professionals can take benefit out of that program, which probably be to boosting their candidature or probably having knowledge on the new trends and technologies coming in the market. Up top is mainly focused on the executive education, wherein we are helping people with short duration programs, with the mid duration program, and the long duration programs also. Our focus is not typically offering the traditional programs, but our focus is more of offering the program which could probably be a unique topic for any working professional, which could support our working professionals to grow in the professional side of it. Offering a program which could also probably make a partner institute as a unique brand offering a unique program. On the other hand of it, we also make sure that the professionals who are appearing with us for these executive programs take benefits out of this program by learning and then probably having the boost in their career. We do have a structure which is designed such a way wherein we do have people who are doing their job specifically into R&D, and then probably marketing and sales, operations and customer service. So we do make sure that the partner institute which we have has the minimum part of the job, and we as a facilitator takes the maximum part of it and make sure that the partner institute has less to do. Recently, we did 2 years of program with IIM Rohtak also, which was the first sports management program here in India, launched by any of the IIM, and we were the only one who actually executed that entire program. So we have started taking interest for the very long duration programs like PG and diploma programs, and that is the area from where we actually have got an idea to build a program with HRCI, which might be beneficial for many who are seeking HRCI for not just the certifications, but they could probably add HRCI as their one of the strong foundation in terms of their PG or probably PGC. So this is from where we have got the thought, and we started developing a program with the help of JD. We almost at the final stage. We have done multiple programs.
I think we lost Ajay.
It looks like we lost Ajay.
Yeah. So just to take it up from there, so we have done multiple programs across the IIMs. So IIM Raipur, we've done a data science program, operation management, leadership, advanced corporate finance. I am Rotak, as Ajay mentioned, entrepreneurship, the first sports management program, the executive 1 year program. I'm at Kolkata. We have done the HR analytics, the EPGC 1 year program, MDI project management. The MDI is the one in Murshidabad. The product management program would be launched soon, and operation management. Currently, we are also marketing programs for IMI Delhi, and we are in collaboration, talking terms with XLRI and with SP Gen. Now, coming back to why we are looking at this 1 year PG HR program, um, a couple of thought process was how we can make it as much industry integrated as possible. I'm a big fan of the Bloom's taxonomy, where it talks about it's not what you remember, what you understand. It's always about what you can analyze, what you can evaluate, and at the helm of it, what you can create by what you have learned. So that would be one of the core areas of the learning part of it. That is what you can evaluate, analyze, and create from what you have learned. To make it as practical as possible, it's not just about the traditional HR programs, but also about the pertinent HR program courses which are as of today live, or what the individual should know to kind of make it not just from the industry. We call it the industry 4.0. We're looking at how the HR can be 4.0 ready. As I said, when you say practical orientation, the theory and practice going hand in hand, and get how much business orientation into it possible. The three core areas we will look into is, one is certainly analytics, second is design thinking. How we can look at the 5 principles of design thinking and inculcate that into the organization, and digital transformation. I very strongly believe that whichever organizations would like to get into the DT mode, it's very important that the HR drives that. And digital marketing, how to use social media from a hiring perspective, also would be one of the areas we were looking at. The HR program, we are kind of divided this into two parts. One is the 1 year PG HR blended, which will the international certification from HRCI will be the core. As I go to the curriculum bit, I'll let you know how this is going to work. The HRCI is going to work. Weekend classes for working professionals. So it's going to be, we are planning to look at face-to-face classes in Delhi, Pune, Mumbai, Hyderabad, Chennai, Bangalore, and Kolkata, and 4 days of live classes. It's going to be a blended traditional and contemporary program. People who are freshers, there's going to be a job-linked one, and for experienced candidates, it's more about how we can enhance their employability. There would be a bunch of people whom we felt that may not be able to leave their job because of their financial constraints, and may not be able to bear the fee which we are proposing for the blended online program. So we're going to have a pure HR online program with live and recorded classes. We'll try to see how we can blend both these programs together, so that even if someone is learning online, it's not that we are giving them a second grade treatment. Just that whatever classes would be happening online for the core program, we will inculcate these online students also there itself. So what is the pedagogy going to be? Not no rocket science here. We are looking at how we can use case studies, exercise, association, group discussion, practical project work. We're going to make it mandatory for every student to do two live project and one mini thesis. And it is going to be evaluated by the industry, normally how a B school is done. But in a B school, we don't really have a mini thesis. It's more an internship. We'll try to get the research part here. The pedagogy, trying to make it, when I say constructive, collective, consolidative, and contemplative, it's about how practical it is, how people can work more in groups, how we can integrate that with what the business wants, and how it can be introspective, means how the individual looks inward about how he or she can develop himself. The core program, when I say the core program, that is the HR with the HR certification, and which is live classes happening 2 days face-to-face classes happening 2 days a week and live sessions. The program is going to cost 6 lakhs. And we're going to look at how we can help with the bank possibility of financing it, scholarships, and we are trying to we launch the program in May first week. The complete online program we are trying to price it somewhere between 2.5 to 3 lakhs. Now these are the kind of courses we are looking at. So someone who is a fresher, will have these close to about 9 courses running in term one, and there is no certification attached to this because for the HRCI certification, a minimum amount of experience is required. So, the moment someone starts with an experience, he enters his classes from term two. We would encourage him or her to be a part of the term one classes. But if they say that they would not like to be a part of it, but they will certainly will have to be evaluated. We will not let them get into term two without being evaluated on term one. But if they want, they can ignore the classes for that one. So term two onwards, the certification part comes and sets in. So you can see that the APHRI, all the courses which are there, that is from 1 to 5, 1 to 4 is integrated into the course. Then we are looking at the psychology, the design thinking, industrial law, and organizational behavior as the other courses. In term 3, the PHRI certification come in. In term 4, the SPHRI certification come in. So we have tried to inculcate the design thinking, the digital transformation, the sociology, psychology, analytics, all as core integral part. Strategy also is included because I am seeing more and more HR now. It's not like what I used to see 30 years back when HR was more a functional or a subsidiary to the organization. Today, it's like in core areas of where the organization's top line and bottom line should be. That's the reason why we feel that the strategy part of HR and the strategy part of the business is very much a part of the course. So this is how we kind of blending the course with the HRCI certification, which is going to be there. So that is from my side what we are planning as a course. I think Ajay is not yet back. I think he's having an internet issue. I'm ready for any questions. I can take up any questions.
So, Jyoti, would you like us to go into questions about the potential academic program that people can have access to, or should we go into our speakers about the benefit of the certification?
See, we can definitely take up more questions with regards to the certifications. Our audience would really like to first understand more in terms of the certifications and how was the experience that Harni and Dr. Archana faced before they kind of what was their experience? How did they come to a conclusion that these are the programs that they would like to go for? How did they go about the entire process? So I think our audience would like to hear more on that before we come to the further questions and answers. So Harni, I would request you to kindly share your experience with our audience while pursuing the GPHR course through HRCI.
Sure. So I think when I had the opportunity to look at the GPHR examination, I was actually at Infi at that point of time, and among the first few batches which was there, where we were looking at certifications to really strengthen the HR organization. So we did look at multiple options at that point of time, and of course, the ones which we were kind of reviewing was between the CIPD course as well as the GPHR, PHR, etc., which were there. I personally found the content for the GPHR to be the most relevant one for me because for someone who's kind of played multiple roles across various gamut of the HR space, I think the depth which a GPHR program gives you in terms of really understanding whether you know your fundamentals really, really well, and then applying that to really test your knowledge is something which is definitely a big differentiator in the program. So I would say it's definitely something which people who've got the exposure in most of the areas of HR should consider it.
Great, thanks, Harini. Dr. Archana, would you like to share your experience on that?
Yeah, sure. Thanks. Thanks, Jyoti, for that. So I had a chance to do the GPHR course almost a decade back. You'll be surprised. It's 10 years back. I got certified in the global GPHR course through HRCI. The trigger point for me really was I was moving with emphasis to an assignment here based in the US. We just did a large acquisition, so I'm based in Atlanta right now. And as part of moving to a role in the US and dealing with US HR requirements, that was my trigger for doing the GPHR way back then. But a lot has changed. A lot has changed in the last 10 years in the role of HR and in the role of the world of work, right? What I mean by that is today the HR roles are boundaryless across different countries, particularly with rise to the COVID-19 and all of that that's happened in the world of remote working. Today, workforce is completely distributed, and this is kind of completely fast forwarded the complete future of work. What I mean by that is that for HR professionals across, we are managing global workforces sitting out of any particular geography. Therefore, understanding the HR requirements of a global model like this is extremely relevant because we are dealing with workforce from across multiple geographies. So, for me, the GPHR is a very strong foundation because it had a good balance of looking at global HR themes, but had a very strong foundation of looking at US from a HR lens. So that was, I think, the big pathway. And of course, in emphasis, I think we've been able to, like Harini, we've been able to see the value of these programs. There's a lot of respect when you speak to your business partners, a lot of respect when you speak to local workforce, that you understand the space of the HR world. So they've been immensely beneficial, and it's just compounded itself even more today, where location is agnostic, and therefore a course like this, any of the four modules of the HRCI are absolutely relevant, especially in our roles in HR, where we are managing workforce from multiple different countries, and that's only going to kind of enhance in the days ahead.
Great, thanks, Dr. Archana. You did mention about the benefits and advantages, and how it kind of helped you position yourself in a much better manner. And we definitely have a lot of certifications that are sought after, which includes primarily HR, it includes finance and accounting, it includes IT, project management, and now definitely analytics and data science. So, what are the tangible and intangible benefits of these certifications? And somebody who's looking of a career roadmap in HR, how would these certifications be a value add at a point of time when a person is, trying to make a career decision?
Yeah, so I'll actually lean in more on what's happening in the world of HR and kind of lean in on those certifications. Like I said today, the role of HR is kind of really not today. I think in general, a lot of the HR themes that are happening in the organization today, right, are HR teams that are geared towards solving business problems, solving client problems, solving transformation or strategic problems. We all know what the whole digital disruption has happened, right? We all know the role of technology and what it's playing in the world of work. If you look at a few years back, there was a lot of momentum on the HR function to understand functions like finance, to understand functions like business. But if you look at what's happening in the last few years, the biggest inflex point between the role of HR today is with the CIO. Okay, we are starting to see that HR's needs to understand the technology becomes very is become of great relevance. Everything that we've done in the last few months or few years is just to amplify this whole role of technology, role of how we deliver HR in a virtual world. And to that point, because of what we are seeing in terms of the technology disruptions, the digital adoption of how HR is getting delivered in organizations, it's linkages to understanding some of the pieces that we spoke about, right? Design, how do you bring in experience? We're doing a lot of design thinking within HR, just like we're using design to solve customer problems. We're also using design to look at the employee experience. We're looking at a lot of data analytics and a lot of insights, and there's also a lot of focus around what are the kind of different decisional tools. So today, the role of HR has a strong, what should I say, strong interplay with technology, technology-led solutions, strong interplay with looking at design and other methods of work to be able to really add value to the HR function. So when you bring in a multidisciplinary view like this, these are relevant. Of course, I wouldn't say one should go and study the full gamut of it. One needs to look at what really is my forte, what really is my business problem that I'm solving. If I'm building an analytical tool, I would want to do that. If I'm in a business partner HR role, and so looking at the lens of what it is. If you are really having a penchant for AI and those kind of tools, kind of creating a subset specialization in that, and then really creating used cases. Any of these things that you take, whether it's design, whether it's data analytics, whether you look at any of these other AI tools of adoption. It's really bringing HR, bringing this interdisciplinary and getting that little bit of expertise, but really about having a used case. So unless we don't have that used case expertise, it's going to be more at a conceptual level. So courses like this will give you a very strong foundational fabric of the concepts and the trends, but its application and adoption and having that interdisciplinary mindset would be very vital. Is the biggest benefit is what I have seen, in what's happening in just HR world in the last few years.
Great, thanks, Dr. Archana. I completely agree with you when you say it kind of really helps in creating that mindset along with other benefits, which definitely include a lot of, upskilling, knowledge gain, and a lot of other benefits in terms of getting a global perspective. Harini, would you also like to share your insights, on a comparison if HR professionals who are pursuing any specific certifications or any individual, whether a non-HR professional or HR professional who pursues a certain certification or a certain credential, does that really give them an advantage in holding a higher level position within the organization as compared to other individuals who do not pursue a specific course?
Sorry about that. My network connection was kind of dropping in and out. So I would definitely say in India, a certification has a lot of value, and I think in the current space right now, a lot of organizations are seeing that extra bit of value come through from a colleague who has that edge in terms of that, because I think it's a tried and tested aspect which is there. I think what differentiates and kind of brings that additional edge is just a simple fact that I think the way in which one is able to articulate that interdisciplinary exposure which they have is there as a clear differentiator when they come in for, say, a role, or as in maybe even from an interview standpoint. So I think that's the piece which really helps, and that helps them to kind of move forward too.
And if I could also just add, one or two perspectives from there. So if you look at any job in the HR world, right, in the global market, one out of two, every two recruiters, one recruiter is really looking for HR certification skills. So every two recruiters are looking to get, a certification. The second piece, and if you look at other disciplines outside of HR, take finance, take legal, etc., many of these other bodies, they're constantly updating their academic bodies of knowledge or disciplines with the relevancy of what's happening in their functional space. And they also create certain memberships. We've not been able to do this level of rigor in the HR world. But today, if you look at the 360-degree view of HR, there is so much that has shifted. It's not just about, policies. It's not just about compensation. The whole gamut of HR is completely transformed in what is going to be an HR professional with expertise. So certifications are absolutely important to stay relevant with what is happening in the body of knowledge. Just for if you were to be an expert in your workplace, with so much of changes in legislation, so much of changes on compliance, so much of changes in technology, the HR that you're practicing is fundamentally shifting every 3 years. So certifications like this will only help you stay relevant, for you to be relevant, whether it's for your workplace or for whether you're going to be a business advisor, etc. If any, it is just multiplied itself. Earlier you could take a certification and stay, constant. If world of work itself is getting disrupted and transforming, all the more reason for you to be associated with a global body like HRCI. Stay relevant, stay upskilled, and constantly, be ahead of the curve in what's happening.
And if I could add to that, one of the reasons why the HRCI certifications require recertification every 3 years is precisely because of this, because things are changing so quickly that this is not a certification that you earn it and then you forget about everything. You have to keep up, you have to improve your professional development. And every 3 years, HRCI says, what have you learned in these 3 years? And we offer a path for that type of education through our webinars, through the courses that we offer online. We're trying to make sure that this is what we, as a certification body, have identified as changes in the HR environment. This is what we're offering to you. But you're very much welcome to find your own path of improvement. But that's key. There's got to be improvement. And every 3 years, you're going to be asked to be recertified, to submit 45 to 65 credits in recertification, so that we know that you're keeping up with what's going on. At the same time, HRCI renews its exams every 3 to 5 years, most likely because of the pandemic and because of the amazing shift to working from home. We're going to have to change all our exams in the next year or two, because what was true a year ago, it's probably going to be the complete opposite a year from now, because all the policies are changing internally in large organizations that allow 90 to 100% of their employees working from home, at least in many of the organizations that allow that type of work environment.
Great. Thanks, JD. Thanks for sharing your inputs. So are we right in saying, because we
Jyoti,
still...
just to add from my side, I could not agree more to what all three of them are saying, especially Archana ma'am and Miss Harini. Today I've been in B schools for the last 10 years, and I have seen how education has changed. And both of them talked about one very specific thing, that is how you can get interdisciplinarily. You know, if today you are an engineer, you need to understand the customer. I always, to my students, I give the example of the Mel Gibson movie What Women Want, in which he kind of in his mind, he's an ad agent, and in his mind he kind of can read what a woman is thinking, and he makes ad specifically for her. So that's why psychology comes in, and that's the reason why me and Ajay felt that should be a very integral part of the course. And what Miss Archana talked about, it's not just about the learning part of it. It's about what my organization needs at that point of time. If digital transformation is already implemented, then if then the HR person is talking about it, I think that person would have missed the bus. But something like a design thinking, the way it's important to understand customer, and as it is said, if you are good with the internal customer, you are absolutely wonderful with the external customer. So I think education has to move in this direction. And as Jorge said, that it is about how you unlearn, and that's what I feel students today fail to understand, and that's why they get a little relevant. Unlearn and relearn what you have learned. So I think wonderful thought by all three of them.
Great. Thanks, Jesubas. I definitely agree. And I strongly feel, when organizations are focusing a lot on innovation and out of the box thinking and design thinking, these certifications definitely provides an edge in terms of knowledge gain, in terms of increasing confidence of individuals who've gone through these certifications, or any kind of relevant credentials in the field. That definitely not just adds to the resume, but also kind of adds to the quality of work that a person is bringing in, though it might not have a direct linkage to the career progression or earning potential, but definitely in terms of abilities, it has an indirect linkage to that when the person gets a global perspective and when the person is really able to implement the enhanced skills into their day-to-day work. While saying that, and we are definitely able to review and assess all the benefits, we still see that HR certifications or any other certifications, they do not fall under the required category. They could still be under desirable or preferred category in various job postings. And these are sought after by employers. It could be any of the HRCI certifications or CIPD certifications for HR professionals. So, how do you see that in the future? And what do you think? Would things change or would they remain the same in the coming times?
So I think that's quite a bit of change has come in that space, most definitely, because I think in the last 3 4 years, if I were to look at it from an India market standpoint, I think there's definitely a pretty large shift in terms of the number of positions which I have seen where leaders who are there, especially at a senior manager, middle manager, and senior manager level, I think there's a clear expectation that you need to have this as a necessity, and they see it as an extra bit of a value add for sure.
And if I could just jump in there very quickly, Jyoti, the thinking has to come from HR leadership, HR managers. We have to set the agenda for what's relevant to us. I'll give you a simple example. At Infosys, almost 10 years back, like I shared, we did the GPHR. It was just emerging. We worked with the HRCI to get the GPHR course done. What we have done as a discipline is we all the time keep having job postings, right? So clearly today, if we have US based assignments, the minimum qualification for somebody who needs to be applying to that posting is a GPHR or at least an SPHR, right? This is essential to get through the door. While when I was, kind of taking this assignment, nobody kind of, asked me to kind of go and get, GPHR certified. The trigger for me was to get respect with my business, and I was going to manage US teams, and it was to, also get a level of credibility with the workforce that you have. So if you're managing teams, if you're managing content, or if you're managing workforce, right, or work, or the workplace itself has anything to do outside of the India location, which today we know pretty much it's boundaryless. It's absolutely relevant that you can set the tone and get on this path when you don't necessarily need to start a GPHR. I've asked folks to, if you're looking at a mid manager and then wanting to build a very strong technical base, right? The courses like what you see from HRCI give you a very strong foundation of how do you look at HR in a very regulated environment. Even though it's US, it could have SPHR could have a very US orientation to it. It still kind of gives you a good lens of how a global curriculum of HR can work. So I would encourage everybody to look at, if you're looking to have a global role in HR or a role that will, a company that's having, operations across, any of these courses, has a huge foundation of to just shape your thinking, shape your thinking at a global level. So you can't ask for like a better kind of a curriculum that can round you as an HR person.
And I would say, contributing to that conversation and that point of view, sitting in Washington, D.C. in the United States, the HR profession has reached a point where the certification process has kind of plateaued. You either get the certification or don't get the certification. But the reality in this market is that for over 40 years, we have reached a point where people know about the certification. People know what kind of professional you have decided to be in HR, depending on whether you get the certification or you don't get the certification. Because in the jobs that are posted, 9 out of 10 are going to specifically require an HR certification. And the large majority of those certifications requested are going to be an HRCI certification, depending on the level of the position. Now, I do realize, because I work in the international environment, that that's not the case outside of the United States. But here's what I can say. I'm originally from Spain. I work with people in Spain. I've been helping to grow the market there. And what I can say is that many countries are reaching the point where the US was 30 years ago. So kind of at the beginning of it. And what I'm seeing is the same trends in India, in Nigeria, in Europe, that the certification is not only adding to the organization, is not only adding to the improvement of the benchmarking and best practices that every organization has to have. It's adding to a culture of what a professional means. I was speaking with a friend of mine in Spain, and he was saying, there's no need for this type of certifications because nobody's going to ask for it, and I can just apply for a job without having that requirement. I said, you're absolutely right today, but what's going to happen in the next 2 to 5 years is that people are going to start comparing, as Archana was saying, and they're going to look at who is going to have the next thing. What is the differentiating factor? And if you don't have that, and if you're not in connection with what's going on in the rest of the world, now the world is a global economy, and you can have a job today here, and they can send you overseas the next day. So it's the beginning of something that we have already seen in the United States decades ago, and I'm starting to see that throughout the world, and very, very more evidently in some emerging markets in Southeast Asia and in India, of course.
Great. Thanks, JD. One of the very, yes, Chisu, would you like to add to that?
Yeah, just Miss Manisha had asked a question about how the certification is going to help an academician. I would certainly say that any academician who is teaching a group of HR student should certainly go for certifications like this, because in this changing environment, how to make that student relevant at the workplace, that's really, really important. And as as Ashima mentioned, that it's about how in that regulated space the certification kind of makes your basic very strong. And that's exactly what I get a feedback from the HR, that the student's concept was not clear. He or she could not relate what is being taught in the classroom with what happens in the industry. I think that bridging that gap is really, really very important. I hope that answers Manisha's question.
Yes, I would agree on that, Jesidas, because a lot of certifications that are being provided by academician vis-a-vis certifications that are being provided by people who invite people from across the industry with practical experience to take up, the classes. There's a huge difference in that. So I think it is really a time for academicians also to kind of have a better insight of things, how things are working in a global perspective, and how things are being taken forward practically across the industry, and at the same time being an industry expert while being an academician. Thanks. One of the question which has come up from Banu, he's asking about the parameters which one should consider while moving ahead in selecting a certification program.
I can deal with this one. So depending on the level of education and the level of HR experience that a person might have, you will be able to access the different certification programs. For the APHRI, the Associate Professional Human Resources International, that's the entry-level certification, just as the basic. There's no requirement for any HR experience. Anybody with any basic education can access that. This certification is based for those who are going to be performing just administrative tasks in HR. So it's just the beginning of the process. If you already have some HR experience, you might be looking at the next one, which is the Professional Human Resources International, the PHRI. That one does require at least 1 year of experience if you have a master's degree. If you don't have a master's degree, then we're talking about you have a bachelor's degree, then we're talking about at least 2 years of experience. So that's kind of the benchmark that you might be looking at. The next level will be the SPHRI, Senior Professional Human Resources. international. If you have a master's degree, that's going to require 4 years of HR experience. If you have a bachelor's degree, it's going to be 5 years of HR experience. If you have less than a bachelor's degree, you're going to need 7 years of HR experience. At the end of the day, these requirements are there not so much to limit people from accessing certifications, but to provide as a level of protection to the candidate so that we are ensuring success. You are going to have to study, but there are some things that knowledge is not going to give you access to. You're going to have to be in the position of an HR professional dealing with a strategic HR plan or something along those lines if you want to get to the point of applying for the SPHRI. So that's why the program that UpTop is coming up with, which allows someone to go through the different stages, adding the knowledge, adding the HR experience if you do have it, is one of the best ways to approach it, because that way somebody's already doing the thinking and somebody has already planned out what is the career path for you. Finally, for the GPHR, if you're thinking of working outside of India, if you're working currently in multiple countries, the GPHR is for you. And I would say the GPHR is, regardless of what other certification you're considering, you might need to get it eventually, because I don't know how you can work in this world of ours so globalized without understanding that people have different cultures and different ways of approaching HR policies throughout the world. I took the GPHR recently, and I thought that it was a very good reminder of how the world is interconnected.
Great, thanks, JD. I would like to request the other speakers also to add in, their perspective on what they had in mind when they selected for a particular GPHR course, and their advice on what any individual who wants to pursue a certain course should keep in mind while making a selection.
Ashna, do you want to go in first?
Yeah, yeah, I can take a stab at that. So my 2 cents on this is that don't wait for an assignment or for handling a role outside of India to start this certification. The starting point in my mind is pick up a course like SPHR, which I continue to lean in heavily on SPHR because that is going to give you a very strong, foundational understanding of HR in a global market. So pick up an SPHR course today, kind of get a sense of, what is the whole HR body of knowledge there. So start with that. The second piece is if you land a role, you're dealing with workforce, you're dealing with leadership teams that are outside India, it's in a global context. Please lean in on the GPHR course. But the starting point would either PHR or SPHR, lean in on that. It'll give you a fantastic foundational understanding of an HR, landscape outside of an India location, and then lean in on a GPHR course. So I would trigger that. Many times people wait for a role or for an assignment and then decide, hey, this is a time for me to now start getting certified. And I think that's not the right kind of direction you should be thinking. Start on it today, and then you can build on that. So, Harini, please feel free to add that.
Absolutely. I completely echo with Archana's thoughts on that. I think a lot of us tend to kind of get into this mode of, okay, should I do a certification or not, when you know that there's something in the anvil in terms of a role or an assignment which is there. And I think that's where I typically go back to one of the very core things which I've always followed in my life. So if you look at the word learn, there's always an elbow before you earn. And that's the mindset which each and every one of us need to have all through. So if I were to just look at it from my perspective, and this is how I typically kind of guide a lot of people around this, if you are in a clear space and you're very, very sure that, yes, you want to do a certification which is going to add value to your profile, I think the most important thing which you need to be prepared to do is do a little bit of introspection in terms of where you stand. Your knowledge level, your exposure is a big, big differentiator in terms of which certification you should go and take up. If your role gives you global exposure, the GPHR one is an absolutely brilliant one to look at. If you have an exposure which is there, which is more nascent in nature, definitely the SPHR one is something which could really help you build the right foundations to get there to the next level. So I think one of the things which I would probably just go back to is be prepared to introspect. I think a lot of us tend to kind of believe that we have a lot of theoretical knowledge, but I think very few of us actually are prepared to kind of put that hat on and say, hey, you know what? The exposure which I've had from my role has actually placed me at an X point. I need to go to a Y. What is it that's going to help me bridge that? So if you're prepared to kind of go down that road, I think there's a huge body of knowledge which is there in front of you, which you can easily pick up and actually take forward.
Thanks, both of you. I think that's absolutely bang on. I think it's very important to consider whether somebody wants to go for a global or a local learning, kind of what would be the ROI or the value for money, which course will be more professionally oriented and can give them a career advancement. So I think those are a lot of factors that one should consider. Also, one should consider the kind of flexibility that the course provides, and if something can be customized, and things like if an e-learning is possible or if that requires practical classes. So those are a lot of factors that one should consider, and these days organizations are really including that as a part of their learning and development strategy, and motivating employees to kind of go ahead with these certifications and courses. So I think we've really come a long way on that. One of the real life question, and that's a very practical question Parveen has asked, is already completed his SPHRI. How difficult is the GPHR certification?
So I took it recently and I studied maybe 2 to 3 months. I will say I have a 4-year-old and I work really hard for HRCI every day. And I try to also have some social time in these difficult pandemic times. But it was not a painful thing. I will say, kind of connecting what the two speakers just mentioned, it's a commitment, and you have to know if you have it in you or not, and you have to know if HR is something a passion, if it's something that you really want to do, or if it's something that is just a job and you might be switching to a different career in a year or so. If you know that this is what you want to do, if you know that you're going to be working in this global environment type of situation, if you know that you're going to aim to work for one of the Fortune 500 companies that have presence in India as multinationals, then I think it's just a matter of time, and it's just allocating the time to study, developing the budget to take it, and going for it. As far as difficulty, I have taken the APHRI, the entry level certification, the APHR, which is the same one with US law, and the GPHR so far. And I will say the GPHR was a lot more meaningful to me because it was real. It was about what's happening in the news, what's happening with international organizations. The APHR and APHRI, because they were just basic, because it was just knowledge based, it was a lot of policy. It was a lot about how are the laws implemented? Do you understand what it is to have a strategic plan? Do you understand what a talent management entails in an organization? Kind of understanding what is the role of HR. So it was not more difficult, even though it's a basic one. It was a little bit more foreign to me. The GPHR is something that I operate in every day, and it was closer to something that I would say it was easier in that sense. But for anybody who's operating in HR and anybody who's operating in the global HR, I don't think you're going to have any difficulty. I was just looking as we were all speaking, what are the passing rates? And the most recent ones that we have are from a year ago. But the pass rate for the GPHR is 69%. So the passing rate for the APHRI, the entry level, is 86%. The passing rate for the PHRI is 78%, and the passing rate for the SPHRI is 83%. So those are very high pass rates for a certification exam. But the reality is that 80% of the people who take the exam prepare because they take it seriously. And that's the key. If you think, I'm going to take the exam in a month and I'm just going to go to see what happens, unless you've been doing HR for several decades, you might have some struggles, because at the end of the day, we're talking about a multiple choice, mostly exam. And sometimes interacting with that type of format is a little bit challenging, but dedicate time and you'll pass. I'm sure about it.
JD, if I could add there, I'm always asked these questions, how difficult it is. I always say it depends on when you start preparing for it, okay? So the difficulty level is directly correlated to when you start preparing for it. But if you've just come off an SPHR certification, right, I would recommend you to straight away dive into GPHR because it's very easy. A lot of it is already covered. The GPHR would lean in more on culture and global themes, but I wouldn't push it out too much. If you have the time and if you're able to do it, jump in straight to the GPHR and then use a lot of the GPHR ecosystem. You have a lot of the assessment, the guides, the flashcards. So you'll see that it's a very easy transition. Once you do SPHR to lean into GPHR or vice versa also. If you do GPHR and you want to lean into the SPHR, I think there's a lot of fungibility there.
Yeah, I would agree with Archana and JD. It's really about the rhythm. A lot of us typically go and take up a certification after a long break away from studies. And that's the toughest one to get yourself back into the groove. So once you've got into the groove, don't get your foot off the pedal. Just motor on. It's really important. The additional thing which is there, I think, about the GPHR is it's very, very practical. So if you have gone and actually done some of these areas in terms of your daily routine, you wouldn't find it that very tough to relate to. Like JD mentioned, it's multiple choice, but then the multiple choice aren't easy. You have four choices in that, three of them look exactly the same. And it's those tiny little nuances which actually makes the difference between right and wrong. And that's where, if your fundamental is right, you've been exposed to it in the right manner, you'll ace it. So don't think twice about it. There's usually a fear which most people tend to have when it comes to GPHR because they think, oh, it's all global. What if I've not been exposed? But if you have the fundamentals right, you should be able to get through it.
And Harini, you touched on something that I was trying to allude in my previous statement when I was saying people don't see the need for certifications in some markets. What I was trying to get at is you might not see the need, but the employers are looking for a drive. They're looking for professionals who want to improve themselves, professionals who are constantly in that state of mind of, I gotta learn, I gotta learn. If you're not in that state of mind, it shows. And when it shows, the employer knows that if I hire this person, that person is not going to give me 100% the next day. The person is going to say, I have a job, I'm all set here. And that is not going to work the same way in many emerging markets. That the message is we're going to go with the full strength. So I think that's one of the reasons why certifications are more and more relevant in any space, for sure.
Absolutely. And I think if I look at it from the HRCI perspective, right, it's about three things for me. You have to have the mindset towards wanting to actually do this. That fire has to be there. You have to have the skill set, which is really your knowledge which you bring to the table. And HRCI has some amazing resources in terms of a tool set. So you marry the three together, you should be able to get through any of these certificates.
Yeah, and the other thing I would, just in case we did this at Infosys a few years back, almost 10 years back, create an ecosystem of learning. If there are few of you, create circles of learning. There are lots of facilitators out there. There are lots of folks who are ready to come and do teach back. So there are certain modules or certain sections which we think are leaning in heavily on legislation and compliance and employee relations. Create circle groups where you can get that extra help to get acclimatized with these modules, and that will help a lot in if you're looking to crack this exam. So we did that a lot. We got partner companies to come together in campus, got teachers, and then we ran a full tutorial. So use those options as well, just as learning aids if you think you need that.
Thanks. That's beautifully put across. So if somebody is planning to go for mainstream course like a MBA in HR or a post graduation in HR vis-a-vis a certification, what would be your advice?
You need both.
Absolutely. I think I was just going to say that anyone who wants to build up a career in the HR, the first step has to be an MBA. You know, yes, there are nowadays, maybe 20 years back, 30 years back, I never saw a non-HR person in the HR role or a HR person in a sales or a business head role. But now it is there. So maybe a non-HR certification, so a non-HR MBA may get into an HR role, but certainly the MBA should be the first stop. You know, otherwise, sometime or the other, you're going to be mapped against someone who is an MBA and a HRCI certification, and you're going to lose it there. So certainly, there's no doubt, no ifs and buts about it. With today's scenario, first an MBA.
And I was speaking about this earlier, talking about the role of HR to be relevant, being very interdisciplinary, right? So even if you look at leaning on an MBA in business or business in finance, you can always then complement it with an HR certification course, because most issues or most themes in the world of HR today are interdisciplinary, whether it's the convergence with technology, with business, or with finance. For the HR roles, it's so much true today to be able to bring in these perspectives, to be really able to add value, solve business problems, drive strategic transformation. So you could even do it in either or sequence, but both of them would be ideally helpful for us, especially the role of HR is so much more towards business, client, strategy, and transformation.
Thanks. That there definitely answers. And Chandra, I think it answers your question, because you had mentioned that you think Indian job market is not at all in a mode of acceptance to take these certifications as a preference. So while yes, the mainstream courses still continue to be there, the certifications are a great value add, and something which gives everyone specialized knowledge on the topics that they decide to go for. So that definitely kind of answers. And the job market has changed, and organizations are requiring these certifications as a part of it, along with your regular educational qualifications. So another question would be, what would be the benefits of the HR certification for non-HR professionals?
I think that was one of the reasons why we launched the APHRI, the entry-level certification. It was initially meant for, in the US, we call them line managers, anybody who has a team that responds to one individual, because that manager is going to have very critical conversations with the HR team. And if a manager doesn't know how to have conversations with the HR team and what is the HR team looking for, just about the lingo, just about the technical expressions, just about the law, what the law says in terms of HR, you're not going to be able to perform your duties as a manager. So that was the intention for anybody who is a business partner, anybody who is a manager. That was the intention. So the APHRI would be the best option there. But as it has been mentioned before, the GPHR, I don't see that any business person who is in a global environment would have a lot of trouble, because at the end of the day, it's about understanding how a global organization operates. There's not that much pure HR in there. It's more about how does an organization operate? What are the different pieces of the puzzle? Those would be the two that I would think are outside of the immediate HR environment.
Yeah, and if I could add there, JD, if you look at when we were doing all these courses on HR for non-HR, the focal point was really around people and line managers and supervisors, but that has dramatically shifted. Today, business managers, line managers, they're not just solving people issues or workforce issues, they're also looking at work. We know the whole shift that's happening in work, jobs getting automated, future of work, new skills. So it's that much more important that people outside of the HR are connected to elements of the work. And of course, for the longest time, we've been looking at workforce or people issues. And the third big shift that we're also seeing is this whole remote work, right? Because everything is now moved from the workplace. So understanding, how we are going to get work done in this virtual world, whether it's looking at themes around productivity, innovation. So today, it's even more relevant that non-HR, folks are starting to look at all these aspects that's defining the next, normal of work.
Absolutely. It definitely helps managers become better managers. People from various areas, could be operations, logistics, be better, kind of be well equipped in handling their teams, managing performance as well, looking after talent development of their team members. So I think that definitely helps even people who are non-HR professionals. Um, Great. So one of the question from Jyotika was how e-learning will be implemented and would it continue successfully post-pandemic? And there's a similar question that has also been asked by Manisha, who's asking more about the complete e-option.
So when it comes to HRCI involved in the e-learning space, over the last year, we've been mostly forced because of the pandemic. We've been developing courses. We even create certificates, which are courses in a specific topic that if you take all of the courses, you end up with a certificate in, let's say, ethics. So HRCI offers that now online, fully online. So that's part of beyond the certification. Everybody thinks HRCI in terms of certification and thinks of the different credentials that we offer. Well, we are entering the space of e-learning, realizing that that's what people want, bite-sized learning, very small 3 to 5 hour courses that combine great certificates. So that would be one thing. The other one is the micro-credentials. Micro-credentials, we currently have 5 different micro-credentials. Those are also very short courses, 3 to 4 hours in very specific environments like risk management, social media, and others. But if you're discussing specifically about the preparation for the certification exams, maybe George can discuss what AppTop has in mind. Or I would just invite anybody to check out the online directory on our website, hrci.org, for the different options for preparation.
So from the course which I was talking about, from the 1-year program, which would at least have a couple of HRCI certification based on your experience, certainly we not expecting someone with experience to leave his job and do the course. So we are looking at weekend classes in the city they are, and live classes during the week whenever they could be able to handle it. That's number one part of it. Number two, I feel that going forward, one of the plus points which come out of this pandemic is the e-learning part. And I'm talking to edutech companies and companies who are marketing these programs. They feel that their market share has gone up, or their revenue has gone up in the last 1 year tremendously. So I think that and I myself had that big, aversion to online learning. And I totally got over it over the last, I would not say because of pandemic, but little bit early when I was doing in my final stage of my PhD, and I had to learn about statistics, and I did that online. I lost that aversion there. So I feel that with time, people are going to lose that aversion to online learning. But yes, commitment level has to be higher, because there's no one trying to push you to learn. And it's the end of the day, it's about how much mind or effort you put in, rather than what your professor wanted you to do. That's how a normal MBA work. You're looking at the end exam. We will try, and what we want to do at UpTop is that try to make the evaluation more 360 degree. And here's what I totally agree with both Harini ma'am and Archana ma'am, is that it's how to make your learning relevant to your organization where you're working. Otherwise, it is just a piece of paper. And that's the reason why Bloom's taxonomy is what I started with. What you can create from what you have learned, that is the pinnacle. So it has to be a self-learning mode, trying to implement what you have learned.
Great, thanks. And I agree, it definitely adds to and demonstrates a lot of commitment that a person has towards a certain, could be an HR professional having commitment towards learning, and it shows their commitment towards their role that they have been handling. And because a lot of people, change roles as well. So one question that I would have, we hear about a lot of upcoming courses and courses that are trending, like data science, like AI. And whenever a person has to decide upon certain courses, a person has a plethora of options available. There are short-term courses, there are long-term certifications. How does one identify individual talents and strengths, and then they select the right credentials and the right courses that they should go for?
I'm trying to understand the question here to see how to best direct. Yeah, I think it's going back to what we were saying earlier. Know what you're good at, know what path you want to embark yourself into when it comes to HR. compare what you have with the functional areas of the different certification exams. If you go to HRCI.org and look at the different certifications, you will find the breakdown of the exam content outline. The exam content outline has 5 to 6 different functional areas. You will see the percentages. Some of them might be pretty heavy, 20, 30%. So if you see that an exam has 2 areas, 2 functional areas in talent management and in compensation and benefits, and all that is 40%, and you have no idea what that is, you might need to think about it, because it means that you're going to have to spend a lot of time studying about it. And it might mean that when you take the exam, you're going to have a little difficulty understanding some of the questions regarding that environment. That doesn't mean that you need to just go in a different direction. It just means that these certifications are generalist certifications, and it means that there's going to be an additional component that is going to be added to your knowledge and your professional development, which at the end of the day is the benefit of the certifications, that you're forcing yourself to learn 360 about what HR is all about, and not just focus on one specific thing. But I would look, often I see the resumes, the CVs of candidates who are applying for the certifications, and I see that they have spent 20 years in doing recruitment. And that is HR, no doubt about it. But so much has changed in compensation and benefits in the last 20 years that what you learn in school or what you thought it was, unless you have the next to your desk, the person who does compensation and benefits, you might be completely in the dark about it. So it is important to know your benefits, your skills, but also the things that you're just not aware of, to know that you're going to have to spend some additional time on that. And that's why we have short courses, to make sure that we increase that level of knowledge in those areas.
Yeah. And the other thing I would add to what JD already shared is you always have a sweet spot, right? You know what you're good at, right? And or you're working in a certain domain of HR. If you think you have to lean in more on learning the compensation and benefits modules, or learning about employee relations, see if your organization is able to give you that opportunity to do assignments. So a lot of times what we do with our teams is to start putting them involved in projects and assignments that gives them this global kind of work team, global kind of experience, and global kind of an exposure. It's not a formal role, but it's an assignment that they can build their expertise. They can start understanding the domain. And of course, they also look at, the knowledge that's there outside of the certification alone, so that they can build really their foundational or domain knowledge in that space. So that's something to look at, to see if you want to take on assignments, or, if like Jerry said, you're only been a talent acquisition specialist, then start with the PHR. It's a good foundational, HR orientation across the body of the HR knowledge. So depending on the expertise, depending on where you think your sweet spots are, you can pick and choose the level of certification that can drive you. But the goal should be to continue to, move from PHR to SPHR to GPHR. Or even if you start with GPHR, you can always lean in back on SPHR, because it's a foundational, base for anything that you want to look at a market and understand what's the HR lens to it.
I think just to put that in a nutshell, again, as a salesperson, I've done about 20, 25, 26 years of sales, be it selling B schools or selling my product. Every individual has a need, and every product has a benefit. Try to correlate that. If you're able to correlate that, so for example, your need in the organization and what that certification is giving you, as Jorge mentioned, it's about, if 40% of that certification is about what you have done or what you are doing or what you intend to do, then that's a certification for you. So that's, maybe I think you should try to correlate the need and benefit theory here and try to pick up what exactly matches you.
Absolutely, thanks. That's very well said. We also have a question from Atender, who wants to know the process for doing GPHR. So I think if you could just throw some light on the process to follow, and also insights from all of you in terms of how should one approach while preparing for the examinations, and quick tips from all of you.
So the first step is go to HRCI.org, create a profile. That's free. It doesn't take anything. Just put your name and an email address. That will allow you to kind of see what the application process looks like. It will allow you to enter your education, your HR experience, and the system automatically will show you what is it that you qualify for. So with that in mind, you can then shop around and figure out what is it that you want to do in terms of preparation. Do you want to study on your own? And then there's some books that you can study for that. Do you want to approach one of the preparation providers that HRCI has partnered with, either online or in person, and take a look at what that option looks like? I will say I have seen that in the international market, 70 to 80% of the people who take our exams go through a preparation course. Why? Because of what we were saying earlier, that is, it requires a level of dedication, and it requires some mapping and some being true to yourself and being strict about the process. This cannot be something that you sign up today and then say, okay, I'm going to take the exam in 3 months, and you don't do anything in the 3 months. Maybe you take a look at the exam content outline and that's it. It requires some study, it requires some being familiar with the content, it requires some testing, like practicing what the multiple choice is all about. We offer also at HRCI some practice exams, which are built with retired questions that were at some point part of the exam but are no longer part of the exam, but it gives you a sense of what type of format and how the exam operates. So those would be the steps that I would think invite the perfect candidate to go through the different stages. Very important, I would say, is being very familiar with the exam content outline because of the percentages. You might spend hours and hours studying something that at the end of the day is only going to be 5% of the exam, and you might only find one question about it, and you could have been dedicating that time to something else. So that, again, is something that our preparation providers spend time organizing, so that they're doing the homework for you already, and they're already giving you the core knowledge and experience to setting you up for success.
So the first tip is already attend webinars like this. You're already doing that, so that's a check in the box. I would say that on the more serious note, there is always an assessment test, a tutorial assessment test. First, take that assessment test for all these modules. There are many out there, so if you can take that, you'll be able to kind of get a sense of, the feel for the MCQ questions, the feel for what is the level of knowledge that you need, etc. So that's a good baseline to gauge how much of preparation you need, which modules you want. If you can find a learning partner, if you're in an organization, encourage other folks in HR to sign up, or any other colleagues. So if you can have a small group, it's great, because then you all can do teach backs, and you can also have other facilitators coming in. So we've always done this through learning circles. That's worked hugely well. Then there's a lot of motivation, there is a schedule, we've put structured sessions, and that's really driven the participation, certification pass percentage. I think we've been at this for the last 10 years. And I think in terms of our certification, JD, I've shared this with you at Infosys. I think it's even close to 90% or more in terms of the pass rates for a module like GPHR, which folks have been starting straight up. But these learning circles and study circles have helped people immensely to stay the course.
Yeah, I would invite everyone to join the LinkedIn group, HRCI Global Voices. That is comprised of people who are already certified and people who want to be certified and want to learn more about it. People exchange information there. And also what I didn't mention is this doesn't have to be an individual process. This can be something that you engage your whole HR department, your whole company, and say, we're going to do this together. And we establish a benchmark, also a common language when it comes to HR, so that everybody is thinking of the same thing when you're speaking about compensation and benefit, when you're speaking about the different sections of what HR is all about. So don't think of this as this is just a burden that I'm going to take as an individual. This can be something that 15, 20 people do in an organization. And most likely there's going to be a discount included in that. So
Yeah, I would recommend strongly tapping into your network. You could have people who are there in your LinkedIn network, or maybe some of the other groups who are there. Tap into them. Don't feel embarrassed about it to go and ask for help. I think the best way to learn is kind of going through the entire thing with a very open mind. Like Archana mentioned, if you can get a few more from your organization to kind of sign up, or maybe even from your friend circle to sign up, the advantage you do have is that you can do a ton of teach back. And especially in exams like these, I think it's just really, really important that you get those fundamentals right and you have each other kind of cross checking so that you're kind of absolutely sure that you've kind of got the concept absolutely bang on, and then it's pretty much far more easier to kind of get through.
Great. Thank you so much, everyone. I think we do not have any more questions, and with this, we're drawing towards a closure. But really happy and proud to say, talk about our association with HRCI. We are in the second year of our association, and Core HRIR and HRCI have together also, launched certain scholarships for HR professionals who wanted to pursue courses through HRCI. So I think the certifications that are being offered are really brilliant, and they kind of uh, really help HR professionals in gaining an insight and getting a global perspective. While there are a lot of certifications, please go through the insights and tips that have been offered today. Make relevant assessments and then go ahead and pursue for courses which really help you get an advantage and edge over others. So, a big thanks to you, Harini, Dr. Archana, JD, and Jesudas. It was wonderful having all of you here with us. And also, we would like to thank all the participants who took time out to join today. We appreciate your feedback for the sessions. We appreciate the questions you come up with. That kind of really helps us challenge and get back to you with more and more information. Thanks to the core HRIR team and all the leaders and many more behind the team. Um, and a big thanks to our panel speakers for today.
Thanks,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thanks.
everyone. Have a great
Yeah.
week ahead. Keep learning and keep growing in your specific areas. Thanks from the core HRIR team to everyone.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everybody. Thanks,
Thanks.
JD.
Bye bye.